Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Good morning to you. Good morning, everybody. How are you? What is it? Is it Wednesday? Yes. Happy Hump Day. Welcome to today's installment of Bad's Roll Moments. I'm your host, Warren Michaels Harris, and I'm finally waking up. When did traveling begin to be so exhausting? I'm not kidding you, man. I took naps in between almost every call yesterday, but I'm feeling so much more revived today, and I want to know how you're doing. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being and 10 being it's great to be alive, drop it in the comments. Where do you fall on that Richter scale? Hey, you guys, that's the bell of purpose. It's here on purpose. It is a reminder that when you hear the bell ring, just like the truth, just like the bell, the truth has a ring to it. So today it's going to be a little different. Why? Because I have two guests, one in each half hour of the show. Both of them live in another country. We have Leo Richard. He's been here before, but I brought him back because he has a new thing within his company, a new branch that we're going to talk about. But he also wanted to talk about global peace. And then I also have on the second half of the show, Nathan McDonald, a friend of mine I met at the funeral of Brandon. I'm sorry, it caught me off guard there. You guys remember that about a month ago. And he is going to talk to us about what's going on in Australia and how after their mass shooting in 1996, they implemented some pretty stringent gun control laws, and their problem has plummeted to nearly non-existent. And so we wanted to talk about global peace today and how we all are feeling today. Of course, I'm referring to the school shooting yesterday in Texas. The current count as of just a couple hours ago, 19 children, all elementary students and 2 teachers. The shooter, 18 years old, a baby himself. And we just, I'll be honest, I've actually spoken at some schools back in the day where there were school shootings or that sort of thing. And never before has the news off television actually made me break down and cry. And last night that happened. Brian and I were watching it, and I had to get up and go into the kitchen. It was just too much. It truly was just too much. And I mean, babies, and we have to talk about this. We have to talk about this because it's our world and they're our future. And no, it's just wrong. So we're going to talk about that today, you guys. So get your ideas, get your comments. We want to hear how you're feeling today and how you feel about what we need to do. We can't, if we're going to have laws and things that change, we got to march. We have to protest. We have to write letters. We have to do whatever we can. And we need some ideas. Let's share those ideas, shall we? So first of all, before I get Leo in here, I just wanted us all to take just a moment, seriously, and just send some light, love, and prayers, healing prayers to everyone in this country. And I mean, the future potential shooters, wherever they are in their journey right now, pray that they find the way into light, love, and away from that darkness, whatever it is that's grabbing up everybody. You guys, we cannot continue in this direction. We just can't do it. And if things in history, look at it, if things really needed to change, who did it? Who was responsible? We were, because we got together, we created a movement, and therefore we created change. So let's talk about that today. It's a tough one. I want to say good morning, Robert Brooker. How are you? Good morning to you. A beautiful Sherry. Yes. Sherry McQueen. How are you? Sherry says she's a solid 9. Yes. Robert's a 7. We're going to get you up to a 10 before this hour is over. That's our goal. Isabel, how are you? Isabel Camacho Black, 10 plus. There you go. Touch us. And you love what? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. And who else? Well, there's so many. Okay. Well, you guys, I'm glad you're here. It's a great day in the neighborhood, even though we have a lot to talk about today. So, Leo, I'm going to get him in here so we could get started. He's been here before. His name is Leo Richard. He specializes in working with men to make themselves better. And you know what? That ties into what we're talking today, because we want our young boys to grow up to be great men, and we want our young girls to grow up to be great women who won't settle for anything less than a great man. And I'm just so excited. I love this guy. I really do. I love his work, and I'm just going to say this. It's not to be judgmental, and it is not to say that whatever anyone else is doing in this vein or this genre is not doing their best. But this guy is one of the best I've encountered. It's true. Extremely brilliant, bright, smart, all those things. But he has a passion for change. And he's left me many times with a lot to think about how I personally can become the best man that I could possibly hope to become. And so I'm just so honored. I called him at the last minute to come in here today. So I'm grateful for that. And you guys, I'm probably going to let him talk a lot because I'm feeling some kind of way today. I really, really am. I'm just going to say this before I get Leo in here. Power We was just about 3 weeks ago. And, those kids in the inner city, they fight to stay alive day to day in their neighborhoods. Caucasian kids, Spanish kids, all kids that go to school. Now kids are afraid they won't make it through the school day. Parents don't want to send their kids to school. And so I'm just grateful that we have people like today's guests, both of them. And I'm grateful that we have people like you who care enough to stop what you're doing and have that conversation that needs to be had. So without further ado, let's put some hearts on the screen. It's our way of applauding, and put our hearts, more importantly, into this illuminated conversation regarding peace and how we can have more of it Here he comes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Rashard. How are you?
I'm really good. There's lots of crazy stuff going on in the world, but I'm really good. Beyond all that, I would say not a solid 10, but definitely a solid 8.5, 9. Dealing with my stuff, going through the life.
How are you feeling today? Now you're in Canada, right?
Correct.
Tell me what went through your mind yesterday, when you heard the news about what happened here in the States, in Texas.
Well, there's a few things that go on. So you've got basically anything like this that shows up is a symptom of something else that's going on. So, I mean, you got to deal with the short-term thing that's there, the obvious, like the news factor, right? But there's something else that's going on that's deeper down that this is basically a symptom of. What is that? And so that's what we really need to address to create the change and the transformation in the world, is like, what's the cause? There's a cause and effect to these types of things. Basic psychology, fight, flight, freeze response, right? People are reacting to something. So, good morning, Robert, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really important to, like, what is that? What is that cause? What's creating that kind of dynamic? And so, I mean, so I always like to dissect it and try to figure it out. Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? Are they minorities? Are they feeling isolated? Are they, were they tormented? Were they bullied? What's the kind of component of their background that is going on in the world that, all that kind of jazz. But how am I feeling? I think it sucks. There, like, no one see stuff like that happen in the world, right?
Well,
so, yeah.
Here's where I want you to come in on this, because I could be wrong. You guys chime in. Sherry, Google and see if it's ever happened. I've never heard of it. But these shooters, as far as I know, are always male.
Yeah, good portion.
I've never heard of a woman doing it, a female.
I think there was one like 12 years ago, but don't quote me on that for sure. But yeah.
Okay, so see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. We all know that traditionally it's the men, and they're getting younger and younger. They're like boys, a lot of them, barely getting there. And so, well, first of all, how much do you know about the gun laws in Canada?
They're always arguing about it. So,
have you guys had any school shootings, Leo?
Yeah, there's been stuff like that. There wasn't a school shooting, but last year there was
or mass shootings.
Yeah, there's someone who pulled out a gun out in school, and I live in the most peaceful city in Canada, in one of the most peaceful countries in the world, and someone pulled out a gun about a year ago in one of the local schools here. So, I mean, that says a lot, right? So, yeah.
You wanted to talk about, let's start with that, with the global piece. And just to get us on the same page, I had this pulled up, and I didn't know if I would play it, but I'm going to. Why? Because I saw a thread this morning that had like 40 comments in it about what happened yesterday, and I was shocked that it was posted at 7 Central Standard Time this morning, and 13 of the people in there didn't even know what had happened. So just in case any of you out there, we're not in the loop, let's just take a look. This is the most recent thing I could find from just a couple hours ago. When we went to bed last night, the count was 18 children had been killed and 2 adults, but apparently another child has died since we went to bed last night. So it's 19, a total of 21 souls were lost. And so this is the most recent. Let's take a look.
Police and paramedics rushed towards the sound of gunshots at Robb Elementary School as parents desperately sought information about their own children.
I'm just confused and worried. I'm trying to find out where my baby's at.
The 18-year-old gunman went from classroom to classroom, firing on the young students and teachers. He shot his grandmother before the attack.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and we will need your prayers to get us through this.
The suspect is believed to have acted alone. Officials say he was wearing body armour but was killed by responding police.
It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed according to my most recent report.
An emotional US president addressed the nation in a way he hoped he'd never have to.
How many scores of little children who witness what happened see their friends die as if they're on a battlefield, for God's sake?
Oh.
He pointed to the Sandy Hook massacre almost a decade ago, in which 20 young children were killed, and questioned what, if anything, would force Americans to move on stricter gun laws.
As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby?
Our thoughts and prayers are also...
In a country where mass shootings are all too familiar, some are sick of waiting.
When are we going to do something?
It's getting people.
I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough.
As families in Uvalde suffer the pain of America's 27th school shooting so far this year, meaningful change is far from guaranteed.
I can't do it. I can't do any more of it. I just can't do it. 27 school shootings this year. And we're not even halfway through the year. We're not even at June yet. You know, here's something, Leo. You're spiritual. I'm spiritual. President Biden last night, we were watching it, and he must have said in God's name 10 times if he said it once. And I was encouraged because Sherry says 123 male mass shootings and only 3 mass by women since 1982. So, Leo, let's talk about, you wanted to talk about world peace. Why?
Well, world peace is sort of like a frame of mind. It's a consciousness, just like happiness, right? Being happy is a frame of mind, consciousness. As you have, certain state of being of peace, then you make different choices in the world, right? So if you're really angry and bitter, you make really dumb decisions. If you're really happy and go lucky, you make, better, brighter decisions and so forth like that. So when you have a consciousness about a group of people who are happy, collectively happy, and, by and large doing pretty good, you can have a lot more optimistic, a lot more, greater things happening, right? So that's why you need, people holding the mantle, the space, the tent pole for everybody kind of move forward, right? So there's a lot of, I don't know if I can swear in your show, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the world.
There is. There is.
Right.
So you work with men.
I do.
Tell people what you do with men. And then, because those are just bigger, a lot of women out there would say they're still boys, but our boys grow into men. What do you feel is missing inside of the mindset, the heart set of these boys that grow up to do this sort of thing? What's missing?
They're not connected with their dads.
They're not connected with their dads.
Yeah, if you break it down into, not that I'm anti-feminist or the feminist movement or whatever, but I want to give you a sharp contrast using that particular movement, right? So you have, go back 400 years, boys were on the farm with their dads, learning and tilling and farming and whatever they were doing. They were connected. The knowledge was being imparted onto their kids, right? And you get the industrial age, so the men would leave the house or the farm and go to, the factory from 7 in the morning, 7 at night, right? All day, come home bagged. And then as you get into World War I, World War II, all the men were gone, were killed. And then the women would pick up the arms at home. And then they were the ones who were the teachers by and large. It wasn't really men who were teaching. So the knowledge of what it means to be masculine came predominantly from missing men and from female teachers and their moms and their version of masculinity. So men haven't really been connected to their masculine side for a few centuries. And then the picture that we have of what it means to be masculine is to be super warrior, right? Back to like swords and, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? And so then we have a feminist movement that says we don't need men, we're equal. I mean, sure, like fair parity and justice and all that stuff, awesome, cool, but we're not equal. We're not the same, right? We have different genders, we have different things between our legs, or we're not the same, like, and all that kind of stuff. So that's, and so with the message of feminism is that, you know, we should, you know, we don't need you is basically the point toward a feminist towards men. We don't need you because we can do everything you can do. And so we have this identity that men have no belonging, no place in the world. And then you couple that with video games, like even the stats with the military is in Vietnam, people wouldn't pull the trigger. So what they actually did with a lot of the military folks is have them play video games where they killed people, and then it went from like 40% where people would pull the trigger to like 80%. And so you have little boys who are playing, what are they, like Call of Duty, or like, I don't know, they're like high school.
Yeah.
So it's right in their psychology, and it's right in there, like it's normal to kill people and see splatter on the screen, and like,
Yeah. My husband and I were talking about that last night, and that's exactly what I brought up. I said, I bet you those games, you know, because I remember 10 years ago, Leo, like if I had a friend or a family member who had a 6 or 7-year-old that was having a birthday, I'd say, hey, what does he want? Oh, he loves video games. And it was like 50-50 how they would, one parent would say, oh, don't get him this. He cannot have, and it was that one. Mortal Kombat was the one they were always saying, no. And then like 3 years after it came out, I would ask that question to somebody, and I was like, but I already know, no more. Oh, that's nothing. Because Mortal Kombat was not the most severe any longer. So they were desensitized and said, well, it's the lesser of whatever, however many evils. So you really believe that is a connection?
Well, I would say there's a definite strong correlation. Absolutely. I don't know all the research and everything like that, but my personal opinion would say that there's a really strong connection to that, because there's research behind it, whatever. So coupled with like men not feeling like they belong, right? Or boys, like, you know, when I was a kid, I would have been a perfect recipe for what's going on with mass shootings. Like I was bullied. I got into a lot of trouble as a teenager, guns, drugs, whatever. You know, this is over 30 years ago now, but like I would have been a perfect, like, had someone flipped me and like really set me off or something like that. There can, who knows, right? Take the wrong thing and you flip out and, you know, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Fortunately, I had enough conscience in myself to like not go there, but it's crazy. Like it doesn't take, it takes a lot of like planning to do stuff like that, especially if kids are wearing body armor. Where the hell are they getting that?
Right.
So, yeah. So anyways, but
and assault rifles, the president did make a great point. Like if you're a gun dealer and an 18-year-old walks in and says, I need 2 assault rifles. Well, you don't use that for hunting. You don't use that for target practice. You use that to kill people.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, not that I'm for or against gun laws, but I don't, just like the war on drugs, like if you fight something, you're just going to have more of a black market for it. So what is the actual problem? Right? Yes. So that's what we actually need to deal with. And that's where you come back into the consciousness of people, right? So one of the things, for better or for worse, with like COVID, for example, is just a side note. You couldn't have a conversation with someone like a year ago without ever talking about COVID. Like it was in everybody's consciousness and everybody's awareness, COVID this, COVID that. You got your mask, you know, vaccines, you got travel restrictions, like everybody was talking about it, right? Yeah. And so I know it's possible to get into everybody's head, so to speak, on a consciousness level. There was a pathway already with COVID. Everybody had this conversation about COVID. Usually it's about something negative when things really hit in mass, like the mass shootings, right? Everybody starts talking about it. COVID, everybody starts talking about it. So we need to use those patterns, those pathways. So if you know anything about personal development, you can use those dynamics to like use those pathways, those similar dynamics, just on a mass scale, but more in a positive direction, if you will. And like instead of mass killings, starting to focus on like mass peace, movement for peace. And what these kids really need, what there's really desperately missing, is the movement factor. I've been in the center circle of 2 really large movements, one for peace and one for like indigenous and environmental rights and so forth like that. And So when you have the energy of a movement, everybody's like, I want to be a part of that. It's the trendy thing. It's the cool thing. Everybody wants to kind of like engage in that. So what I've been kind of crafting and visualizing and envisioning for like 40 years, probably. How old am I? 42? Like 30 years. And like seeing, and then like, so I'm ready to like launch now. So there's so much stuff going on in the world. So my first iteration, I've been working on it for a few months, will be coming out by August. I have someone who's building it out for me, which will probably be done in like 5 weeks, to be honest. But so I'm building out an app that's like community, and where we're going to coordinate kind of mass meditations, if you will. Now,
Okay.
I know it sounds like a bit woohoo and way out there, but there's some research out there that backs meditation. So when you bring a group of people together and focus on an area in peace, in the consciousness of peace, if you will, and just, that's not really my language, but people get that language.
Right.
Crime rates drop, terrorism attacks drop, things like that drop 60 to 70%. That's a huge drop on the day that they do that. So what I want to do is coordinate people coming together, regularly meditating in that particular focus on like hot spots or hot zones or hot areas. And it's been shown that it's impacting the consciousness of those areas. And it's not actually a big number. So the kind of growing theory that's out there is it's square root of 1% of a given population, which isn't all that big. I live in a 1 million plus city, and it's about like 121 people. If you have 121 people meditating together. So as a whole, I don't know what necessarily the population of the world is right now, but let's say 10,000 people is a square root of 1% of the global population. It's not a whole lot of people. And so what I want to do, my first objective is to hit 10,000 people coming together, meditating, focusing on holding space for peace in the world. It's not a big number. I mean, it's got a lot of work to get there, but I really want to test this theory. One of the things I want to see if I can manage to do, and I got to figure out my network or a mentor or whatever to do this. But anyways, I want to create a thesis or challenge this and go through like a university and really test this out. And that kind of aspect, I have no clue how to start that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just want to throw this in there because not a shameless plug, but a few weeks ago we had the power of we, and I know even on my little bitty space that I hold for these kids, the power of we, and all the people that pour into it, and all of you that were there, there's some of you watching were there, know that it's a real thing. Hi, Miss Lee, how are you? She was there. Sherry was there. Some of the rest of you watched pay-per-view, and there really is a power within the collective consciousness. There really is. So talk about, this is the new thing that you're doing.
This is the new branch of my company. I have the experience, I have the know-how, I have somewhat of the network. Like one of the big movements we had, the UN was starting to come on board. We had Hollywood, we had some really big players. I'd have to like really tap that network, but because that's like over 10 years ago. But I have the experience, and I'm probably one of the few, if the only people in the world that could pull something like this off. And I've been like humming and hawing about this, like, no, don't do it. And I'm like, well, who the hell else is going to do it, right? And so I'm tapping in. I've been researching a lot about high achieving and high performance, and seeing what I can do with this. And I've also got a little minion in my household, little kid, my daughter. So I got to keep that in track as well. But
Sure.
Yeah.
So Leo, so even though you specialize working with the male population, tell us about how important it is for all of us, the collective. You know what I'm saying? What can the female collective do to pour in? Because I know Miss Charlene, who's here, she has 2 young men that she's raising, 2 sons. And so, and she is, I love the way her mindset is about how she, like for instance, the gun thing. She has a license to carry and stuff, and she shows them the right way that should be done if it's going to be in your world. How important do you think it is that females start speaking to the thing that you work with guys about? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I mean, someone's got to hold the mantle, right? And so you got, if you can change, like one of the rules or the one of the very few pieces of dogma I work with is like, if you can transform yourself, you can transform your family, you can transform your community, you can transform your nation and state and whatever in the world. And so whoever's holding the mantle isn't just holding the mantle. Like, where's your place of integrity? Where's your conscience? Where's your, part of you that doesn't have all these excuses of I can't do this or I can't do that because I'm not this or whatever. One of the things that's, as I'm stereotyping here, but as general rule of thumb for women or spiritual beings in female bodies, if you use more my language, but like, is they have access to a lot of creativity, right? As a stereotype. And so what can you do in terms of your creativity, your creative awareness, how to inspire people, how to like, all the ideas, right? Idea generation. You look at politics as predominantly men, usually white men who are balding, who are old, and that kind of stuff. Like, the war in the Ukraine, they had a big meeting, I don't know, like 4 months ago, 3 months ago, or whatever, all the security people. I saw a picture of it. It was all men at least 50 years of age that were white and bald, that were deciding on the fate of what should happen in the Ukraine. Where's the women that have the creativity, the other side, the feminine side of it? Where's the minority, right? There's like, it's insane. Like, you got to be kidding me, right? And so we need to change consciousness collectively and individually. And like, so as for women, tap into your creativity. You're told to shut down your light. You're told to like not stand out. You're told to like whatever. Who heckin' cares, right? And just like stand up, be your creative self, because those are the things that are going to change the world. Art, just as a side note, tends to really impact people. Like, so like movies and paintings, and like it connects to people's feelings. Again, another female quality, right? And it's more emotional nature by and large. So tap into your creativity would be my.
I love that. And you got me thinking, because I remember when I was little, back in the 1800s, that's what it feels like. I remember I had a big fight on my hands at 7 when I demanded for Christmas an easy bake oven. And it took me 3 years to win that fight because they kept giving me things like Johnny Lightning sets, the race cars, this Rock'em Sock'em robots, all the boy toys, right? And right. And so machismo, that. Do you think that what can we do to introduce parenting skills to the mindset of that it's important that boys feel okay with the feminine side because it's there, it's real. You don't hear about it. They don't teach it. Where are we supposed to find that?
Where do you find it? Yeah, that's a good one. I always go to books. So my go-to is a book. And if I can't find it, there's a book about it somewhere. And so I dig up books on, there was a recent book I picked up that was called Spirit Day, I believe it was called. It was celebrating like Spirit Day in September or whatever. I think September, October, I forget the actual number of the day. I'm not the best with those types of dates, but like celebrating diversity, accessibility, queer, and like the whole like range of different things. So I pick up books. If I'm not educated or I don't have the knowledge or the understanding of it, I pick up a book and I start young. If I have a 14-year-old kid, they may not want a 2-year-old book, but like there's an aspect of like I'm going to look at stuff that I can educate them. Find a movie, find YouTube clip. There's something out there that is useful, and find a way to like educate people. That's one of the best ways to really have a quick impact.
Yeah. So in your work, because you got this new piece with meditation and stuff. Oh, and by the way, before we get too far down the road from that, Sharon McQueen says, Leo, please keep me posted on that. I know a lot of individuals that would love to participate in that.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah. And I want to ask you this, because you have been working with the male population for some years now. Mm-hmm. How much of your work involves introducing men to the idea of embracing both sides of their spirit, feminine and masculine? And how do you do it? Because when they come, do they not know that this is a thing? Are they completely oblivious to the idea?
Sometimes, yeah, more often than not. But if they aren't oblivious, they don't know the depth that's possible with it. So I work with, as a rule of thumb, there's sometimes some other energies, but you have masculine and feminine energy, regardless of gender, regardless of gender type, and so on, and all the conversations that can be had about that. But there's masculine energy and there's feminine energy, and you have some sort of mix of that. And so you might be 80% masculine and 20% feminine in terms of your energy. And that might be authentic for you, and that might be inauthentic for you. You got to find your balance.
How does one know the difference?
You got to get to know yourself through, in my opinion, what I've been doing for years is you got to get to know your inner world. So I've worked with men and women for, I don't know, I have like over 35,000 client hours, right? And like in a lot of my own personal experience as well in introspective. But like, you got to get clear on your own energy. Who are you? What is your vibe? What's your attitude? Not what you think you ought to be, what society puts onto you as a gender, and we're talking gender here as a gender, whatever kind of expectations, family, culture, whatever. You gotta kind of move that out, and you gotta tap into like what's underneath all that kind of stuff, all the negativity, all the validation, all the stuff in the world. And and this is from psychology, but that I've learned over the years is one of the ways to get past whatever you're stuck or up against, and even the situations happening in Texas today, is what's the meaning from it? The only way you can move past something or heal something or transform something is make something bigger out of it. So for some people, it's connecting to God. Some people, it's like a life purpose. For some people, it's something, like how do we generate a meaning out of this? So when you are trying to figure out your masculine and feminine energy, what's your why? Why are you doing it? What are you trying to figure out? And that will start the process. That will start to get you to ask the right questions. It'll start to bring you to the right people that can help you and support you or mentor you or whatever. The right courses. It'll make you look at things from a different lens and allow you to ask better questions. So you got to figure out like what your why. Why do you want to change? Most people don't want to change unless they have a why, right? So
Now I remember when my adoptive mom died. I'll never forget this. I got pinched by my brother. We were sitting on the front pew, just a couple feet from my mom's casket. And I was crying. And I remember he just reached and grabbed my thigh and pinched me so hard. And he was saying, "Stop crying. Boys don't cry." And do you know, it took me almost 30 years before I could cry again from that one moment. Talk about, so what energy was that? Was the crying my feminine energy, or does that belong to boys too? See, that's what a lot of us don't understand. What is that? What do the two energies look like? How do I know when it's one or the other?
Well, here's the other thing. We're told to be men. What does that actually mean? Right?
Exactly.
Okay, so sadness, in my opinion, is like the body's immune system to a virus. Sadness is the immune response to pain. So if you've got pain in your system, emotional pain, physical pain, mental pain, spiritual pain, whatever, you got pain, sadness is what gets it out of your system. So if men aren't allowed to cry and run their sadness, they've got a lot of pain in their system. And if they don't deal with it, it turns into a shadow, and they become abusive, they become recluse, they become shut down, they hate on the world. So you look at these kids in like Texas right now, this 18-year-old, I think his age, he's in a lot of pain. He's been told not to cry. You can guarantee it. He's been told not to cry. He's been told not to show his emotions. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be bitter. It's okay to be resentful. Those are the permission spaces that kid's got. He doesn't have a lot of permission to be sad. If you give a boy permission to be sad and cry, he's not going to hit someone, right? He's going to be crying and dealing with that. But when you have a little boy around you and they're not crying and you know they need to cry, but they're shutting it down, they start hitting people. They start biting people. They start, the little kids, because you as parents, they need to cry, but they're told not to, right? And so when you give them the opportunity to cry, they stop feeling that resentful anger. Anger is healthy in certain contexts, but there's a bitter anger, right? So you got to let people cry because then they can get the pain out.
Right. Micheline says, first of all, she says, I never allowed anyone to tell my babies that. And she's the one that's the young man. She goes, they have just as much right to express every emotion because they're human. Yeah. So let's go back even further, if we could, as far as this mindset and this indoctrination to what boys do and what girls don't do. I just watched some friends of mine, they had a baby reveal the other day on Facebook where they pulled the thing and the stuff flew out to tell what baby it was. And it's still, if it comes out pink, it's a girl. If it comes out blue, it's a boy. And you know, I remember I wanted to wear pink way back before it became fashionable and okay, but you better not. It's just like, you know, if you're a little boy and you're at you're 4 or 5 and you're at a wedding reception, they love the little boys and girls slow dancing, and they love the little girls that are out there holding hands and dancing. But let 2 little boys hold hands.
Right.
Do you believe, is that ever going to change, Leo? And why do we feel it has to be one thing or the other that represents? Why isn't it who you are as a person and not the color that you're wearing?
This is where you got to challenge basically the what I would call the British version of Christianity that came around for the past, couple thousand years, Roman kind of, which really, let's take India, for example. So prior to British culture, they were very open culturally, liberally. I don't know what the language they used back then, but they were gay friendly, transgender friendly, all that kind of stuff prior to British times, colonial times. When Britain came, they shut that all down with the religious beliefs. And so that came across to North America with all the boats and, the New World and all that kind of stuff. So there's been this huge kind of thing that's come across with Britain, not necessarily present day Britain, but like the pastime version of Britain, Christian model of what is okay and not okay. That impacted the Arab worlds, that impacted everything at that particular time. So we live in a belief system that certain things are okay, certain people are okay, certain people are inherently, there's something wrong with them. And so we really need to challenge the Christian belief system, which is really old. The language was written in a time that those words meant different things. Like the heavens, for example, back when the Bible was written, just a really neutral term, were the stars. Not what we think of this man on top of a cloud these days or some other thing. It was the stars. That was what the term was for the heavens back when it was actually written. So we need to actually consider when the book was written, or all the little books, the political agenda was written by a bunch of men in Constantine time that put all these different little books together. It was very political in how the Bible came together, right? But people don't want to believe
it was a control tactic.
Yeah, it was a bro tactic, absolutely. And that's what's impacting the world right now. Men right now are dealing with the karmic consequences of what we did back then. So that's the shame story, right? So.
And Ross McCrary, thank you for being so transparent today with this. Ross says, I pushed down my emotions and my abilities to cry, and 15 years later, I came out in a major depression in my 20s with every emotion under the sun. And so you have dealt with a lot of men. Let's go back to the work you do, Leo, based on what you just saw right there. When we come to you as men, what's the first thing you would say you point to that we need to unpack? Because oftentimes we need to die to something that is not serving us in order to be born into something that can.
Okay, so my 2 strengths are emotions, one of them being one of them, and then the other one, separation from other people's energies or other people's beliefs or whatever. I teach people how to separate from other people's stuff really quickly and effectively, and then you tap into your emotions. Emotions are like your lubrication. I don't see emotions as a bad thing or good thing, anyone specific. Anger's got its place. You give someone who's depressed permission to run anger, they're not going to be depressed anymore, right? And then they can access the sadness that's underneath that. Then they can start to access the happiness and joy. And I saw this when I was in cutting edge neurotech as well, and then neurological patterns with people, but that's a whole other beat. But like emotions and energy, separating from other people's stuff and taking responsibility for your emotions.
Speaking of emotions, because as men, we're keep that shit buried. How do you think people get the wires crossed wherein points to or defines the difference or similarities between emotions versus feelings. Are they one and the same?
Well, feelings could be hot and cold, right? Those are feelings. I feel hot, I feel cold, right? So you can feel other people's energies, emotions, and stuff like that. Emotions, like I start with the 8 basic emotions that people work with. So we have apathy, where you don't care. You have boredom, it's like, well, you know. Then you have sadness, you have anger. Anger is a higher vibration than sadness. A lot of people will be okay with sadness, but as a rule of thumb, stereotypes, women have issues with anger and men have issues with sadness. And then to cross that threshold, you work with amusement, and you have joy, and then you have enthusiasm, and then you have spiritual freedom. Those are the 8 kind of basic emotions I work with, or that I start with, I should say. And fear isn't actually an emotion, in my opinion, unless you're about to have a piano fall on your head. It's projection. It's other people's basic biases on what's going to happen or not happen.
Right.
People's stuff that's been pushed in your face, in your space. And so the difference between emotions and feelings, it really depends on perspective and your definition of those. But you can feel all sorts of things. You can feel emotions, and then emotions are, you know, what most people think of, like crying or being angry or happy or something like that.
So we have a couple, male and female. Let's use that example where she says, well, what you did or said hurt my feelings. And then he says, you're always so goddamn emotional.
Okay. What they're actually talking about is sensitivity in that case. So one person's thinking the other person's oversensitive, the other person's thinking the other person's not sensitive enough. So when you're connected emotionally, then you're more sensitive. That's one of the downsides of being more emotional. Like when you're a tank, you don't really feel a whole lot. But when you're emotional and you're connecting to your emotions, you're much more sensitive to other people. You're much more considerate. You're much more thoughtful. You're much more integrative with things around you. That's one of the things of emotions is, I don't know, like men who want to be successful in life, emotions are the key ingredient to integrating your learning. So if you want to learn something, if you're not, feeling the emotions, the experience with it, the happiness, the sadness, whatever, you're not integrating that learning, you're going to burn out or you're going to lose that success. And so you become much more sensitive when you tap into your emotions and your feelings. And, one of the things that I do is I teach people tools to protect their sensitivity, because we're in this world. It's, it ain't fair. The world is full of BS. It's full of people who want to be jerks. It's full of people who want to hurt on others and whatever, hate on others. And so you need to learn how to, maintain your sensitivity without having a tough skin, right? And learning how to be yourself without that tough skin. Everybody's taught you have to have a tough skin to be able to be in this world. No, I think that's a horrible idea. And how do you be yourself and be sensitive? And you need to learn the tools and learn how to function in a society in that sensitivity. But what that example, that common fight between, a couple and then, basically a straight relationship there is it's around sensitivity. And that example you gave me there, and it's like one's not sensitive enough, so to speak, and the other's overly sensitive. It's sort of the beliefs, right? Yeah. And so that's basically what it comes down to, that particular argument that happens in pretty much every straight household that I've heard about. It's like the sensitivity issue. So yeah.
Well, do you think, Leo, that we'll ever get as a collective, as the human race, do you think we will ever find our way into that sacred circle, if you will, where showing emotion is not perceived as a sign of weakness? I just don't understand that. Why isn't that a strength?
Well, we need to educate people on that. Really, we're not educated on emotions. We're educated in very intellectual and straight A's and D's, or whatever. We're analyzers, right? And then the other side is we're sometimes educated in the kind of the thought of war, sometimes in the healthcare system, and then the other one might be government, but those are and religion. So those are the main kind of branches. We don't have a system or a process or a direction for connecting emotions. Like psychology itself is pretty new in our culture, right? It's about 100 years old, for example, and it's just starting to get mainstream acceptance, like in the past decade-ish.
I slid off the arm. I'm going to say this. The creators of toy guns, BB guns, all those things, I guarantee you the creators are primarily men. I believe that. And I also, tell me how you feel about this. As far as gun reform and gun laws, most of the people making those decisions that enable these young boys to have access to assault rifles legally, I'm pretty sure those decision makers, because it's all based on this, are men. How do you feel about this? I said, I think if women were in those lawmaking roles predominantly, and there'd be a difference, because the women are the carriers of the babies. They are the portal for mankind. If women didn't keep having babies, we'd go away. So because I was thinking about that when I was watching the various clips that I looked at, and I'm looking at these mothers, and I just had a friend who had a grandbaby yesterday, and I'm looking at it, and you see how the mother, when men find out the wife is pregnant or the family is pregnant, they don't touch their stomach. They don't lay their hand on the stomach. Women do, because they and that baby were once one person. And so I just wish that we were able to let the female collective get their hands on some of this stuff. How do you feel about that?
I don't think gun reform is going to solve it. They tried drug reform. They tried all sorts of other things. It's really, in my opinion, what's going to change the world is not government. It ain't going to change.
Non-government?
No way. Climate crisis, global warming, like, just, if you believe it or not, it's kind of irrelevant. When I was a kid, I could look across the lake that I grew up on and there'd be no smoke in the sky. There's like 2 days out of the year where I can actually see the mountains across the lake now as an adult. There's a big difference in the world, whether you want to admit it or not. We're still trying to figure it all out, which should have been done 3-4 decades ago. There was energy 150 years ago, or 100 years ago, where you could tap 2 probes into the ground and it would light the light bulb. That's over 100 years ago. We have the technology to change the world, to make it a better place. It ain't going to happen with government. People rely too heavily on government to create the change. It's going to be the people. And so that's the only way we're going to change. And it's got to be grassroots movement. It's got to be from the ground up. It's got to be, that's the only way we're going to change the world. And
I agree.
Because the people who are making all the laws and controlling everything, they're always being lobbied. They have their own biases, their own corporate interests, whatever. It's going to stay like that until people have had enough. And
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Micheline, I love this. This is exactly what Leo is saying right now. She says, I think if we teach people how to love again, it'll change the world. So, Leo, thank you for that, Micheline. Leo, this new prong in your
company?
Yeah, in your company. Tell us a little bit more about that and how we can become a part of it.
Okay, cool. So the app is in a design state. I came on the call today because there was a spot and you asked me last night. I was like, sure, let's do this. And let's do our first kind of official opening and kind of pump up the energy of it with who better than Lauren, right? So I got an app coming on that people will be able to sign up for. You can go to peacecompass.org to check, kind of start to kind of network with me, check me out on LinkedIn, get my network, that kind of stuff. But it's coming out. I have a whole organizational model that I built that involved 3 large-scale movements and how to change the world from the ground up. I am going to finally implement it. I'm going to piss off a lot of people as I do this. I'm sure, particularly governments and that kind of aspect. But so I need to get mass visibility in a quick hurry so that I have visibility as my protection in that kind of regard. But the idea is to create a collaborative community. Even the worst players in the world, the bad seeds or whatever, end up having a productive impact in the world, because it creates this creative tension. There's a reason why there's issues in the world, right? And so how do you take that and apply it in a way that impacts the greater good of the whole? Even the worst case situations, like the crap that's going on in Texas today, how do you take that and include that in the greater good of the world, right? It sucks. It absolutely sucks, right? And so when you have that and you can take the seed, the goodness out of it, and really, and this time you're gonna have to dig deep, but where do you find the goodness in that and how do you apply that into the world? And it really, hopefully this spurs a movement to really, like, people have had enough, have fed up. Where's the next one coming? We got to do something now, right? Kind of deal. But you can go to peacecompass.org, and I'm building this out. My first objective is 10,000 people. Once I get that, I'm going to aim for 10,000 people per time zone to coordinate meditation together. So, and I've had 250,000 people coordinated together. So I've done this before, not this precise and not this exact. So I got to step up quite a lot, but I can make it happen. I've got the experience, know-how, and I'll pull it kind of all together and all that jazz. So that's the idea.
I can't wait. I absolutely love it. And I just want to say this to you and to all of you. Leo, what I love most about you and your work is that you don't take nibbles. You put the whole damn thing in there, and it's like you take the risk. Am I going to choke to death? So be it. It'll be worth it. And I wish more of us would commit at that level to whatever it is we know we were brought to this world to accomplish. Yeah. We could get so much further, so much quicker. And so I just want to applaud you and thank you so much for that. You can count me in on this, definitely. And I hope we can count on all of you. And if this isn't the thing for you, I implore you, find that thing that heals, that is about you. It's a Stone Soup story. All of us needs to bring whatever we have and pour it into the pot known as humanity. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I'm not kidding. So you guys, on the screen, you see two roads towards peace. And Leo is there at peacecompass.org. Get over and check it out. Or you can find him on LinkedIn. I just want to thank you again. And you're welcome back here anytime. I promise next time I'll call you at least more than 14 minutes before the show. I'm kidding. It was last night. But you know what I'm saying. And man, just keep up the good work. You're such an inspiration. Great job. Great job.
Of course, Lauren. Cool. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for all of you, listen, tomorrow, come on back. Oh, Big Country is here. If you remember, he is our Para-Olympian, and he's got some new things to show us. He's moving to the nationals in a number of events, and I love this guy. He just will not quit. He lost a leg. He lost another part of a leg, and he stands taller than a lot of us that have both of our legs. Think about that. I'll meet you, God willing, out front tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central for another illuminated conversation right here on Bathrobe Moments. Leo, take us out with just drop something like it's hot.
Just drop something like it's hot.
Drop something like it's hot.
If I want something, my biggest risk with peace is global peace movement is what does it look like once we have that? So I want people to start thinking about what does a world of peace look like? That's what I want you to think about for the day.
What does world peace look like?
Yeah.
There it is. There it is. Thank you. Get out there today and be the change you'd like to see in this world. Hey, if you want it, then start it. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you. Have the best day ever. Bye, Leo. Thanks, everybody.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Oh, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind. But you
have a great day.